Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to be back with you, all the counties, family, and way beyond that, as we come together on this morning for Life Connect. You know, we're living in an incredible season of change. And, this whole COVID pandemic has turbocharged all the changes that seem to be taking place in our world around us. And so things like the high street shops have been closing, internet sales have suddenly shot through the roof. There's been a surge in supermarket grocery deliveries, constant change in the rules on COVID, which, it's just been one thing after another after another. There's just been constant change going on. And I don't know how you've coped with it all. I don't know how it's felt for you. But I think for most of us, even those of us who perhaps adapted quite well in the early stages and didn't find it too bad, this constant changing is actually, after a while, it starts to affect you, doesn't it? It starts to seep in and make a difference. The rule changes with the COVID. In 1 minute you can do certain things, next minute you can't. So now today we're allowed to hug people, whereas yesterday we couldn't hug people. Tomorrow will be something different, and we don't know quite whether this Indian variant of the COVID strain will change things again. And so this seems to be in our life the last 12 months or so, as we've gone on this roller coaster up and down, hoping we're going to come out of it, starting to come out of it, and then back in. And we're all looking forward and hoping that come the 21st of June, at least in the UK, we're well on the way, following the roadmap out of the pandemic and all the restrictions, but we just don't know. And it can be really wearing. And certainly I found as a leader involved in a local church, but also having had a wider leadership responsibilities, this season has been an exhausting season. And this constant change can leave us feeling unsettled, exhausted, insecure, even at our wits' end at times, isn't it? Because it's just never ending. So I just want to ask a question this morning, and that's simply this: what do you do when you feel like, in this season of constant change? What do we do at these times? Where do we turn? Well, I think you kind of know what I'm going to say here. We turn to the one. First of all, we turn to the one who never changes, and that makes a difference. We are in this place of constant change, and the bad news is the change is here to stay. And I'm the kind of person that actually quite likes change. I'm the kind of person that would normally embrace change and enjoy it. And we tend to have a policy in our church, which I know a lot of people would struggle with. It's actually, some people say we mustn't do change for change's sake. Well, actually, I think we should do change for change's sake, because it actually helps us to remember that the world around us is changing. The gospel never changes, but the world around us is changing. And so we have to adapt in our styles, otherwise we become completely out of touch. But it does become wearing when we have so much change going on, and it's great to be able to go to the one who never changes. And the one who never changes, and we look at his word, the Bible, and some of the psalmists, they have some wonderful words for us which we can speak into where we're at today. And Psalm 102 is one of these great psalms, and in verse 12 the psalmist says, "But you, O Lord, will sit on your throne forever. Your fame will endure for every generation." And then he goes on in verse 25, "Long ago you laid the foundations of the earth and made the heavens with your hands. They will perish, but you will remain forever. You are always the same. You will live forever." And it's really important, isn't it? In the midst of all this constant change going on, actually, let's just come to the one who doesn't change. God doesn't change. And we know that's to be true. And so, yeah, there's some relief there, isn't there? Some security there, just coming to the one who sits on his throne. His fame will endure forever, from one generation to the next. Long ago, yes, he laid the foundations of the earth and the heavens, and they will never perish. He will remain forever. He is the same, and he will live forever. And that's just something, a reassuring principle and fact to remind ourselves on. But then I think the psalmist also goes further than just reminding us of the truth about God, the one we come to, but he also reminds us, secondly, that he's one we can pour our hearts out to. We're to pour our hearts out to this unchanging God. And I love it right at the beginning of that Psalm 102, verses 1 and 2. He says these words, Lord, hear my prayer. Listen to my plea. Don't turn away from me in my time of distress. Bend down to listen and answer me quickly when I call to you. You see, he comes to the one who doesn't change, and he says, look, come listen. He's pouring out his heart, and you read through the rest of the psalm, you can see how he poured out his heart to God. And if you're struggling and this change is perhaps a bit overwhelming for you, then pour out your heart to the one who doesn't change. Just pour it out to him like the psalmist. And then as you do so, you will feel that release and his touch upon your life and that encouragement. And then as you do that and receive his encouragement, there's a third thing which I think that God's wanting to say to us this morning, and that is to keep pressing on where God has called you to serve. Keep pressing on where God has called you to serve. And the writer to the Hebrews, he says these wonderful words in Hebrews chapter 13, which I'm going to just kind of leave you with as I close. And it's this, starting at verse 1, 8 verses. He says, what are we to do? Keep on loving each other as brothers and sisters. Don't forget to show hospitality to strangers, for some have done this, have even entertained angels without realizing it. Remember those in prison as if they were yourself. Remember also those being mistreated as if you felt their pain in your own bodies. So there's a whole list of things there. He's saying, we're to keep on loving each other just like family, brothers and sisters. Show hospitality. That's something we've not been able to do, isn't it, during this season of lockdown? But now we can have people into our homes. Well, show hospitality. Do that again. Yes, remember the disadvantaged, people who perhaps are worse off than you and struggling. Maybe even people in prison or feel imprisoned by what they're experiencing at this time. And feel it in as much as you feel their pain in your body. That's how much you empathize with them. But then he goes on in verse 4 and says, give honor to marriage and remain faithful to one another in marriage. That's really important, that we're to be faithful in our relationships, particularly marriage. And then in verse 5 it says, don't love money, but be satisfied with what you have. It's very easy to look at other people, isn't it, and go, I wish I had that. No, just serve where we are and be satisfied with what we have. Life is never going to be fair. In heaven, all these kind of things will be resolved, but we're not there yet. So just be satisfied. And then he goes on and says, why? For God has said, I will never fail you. I will never abandon you. So we can say with confidence, the Lord is my helper, so I will have no fear. What can mere people do to me? Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful to know that God is our helper? We don't need to fear what is happening to us, how we feel in ourselves, our own emotions, because God is with us. He doesn't change. He is our helper. And how does he wrap it up in verse 8? He says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Isn't that encouraging words from God's word there, to know that in our changing world, we come to the unchanging God. We're able to pour out our hearts to him, know that he hears, know that he cares, know that he listens. And then he calls us just to go, do not just keep pressing on. We're to love each other as family, show hospitality, care for the disadvantaged, and remain faithful in our relationships. Be satisfied with what we have. And remember that he is with us and he will never fail us. So wherever you are today, whatever you're feeling, if you're starting to move into a different season of life because of the pandemic is allowing us to, then be encouraged and be blessed to know that God walks through with you through this changing season as you trust in him today and every day. And please join me on Friday morning, because I'm going to be coming again, and we're going to explore this whole theme of change a little bit further, and hopefully I'll have a special guest with me too. So have a great week and see you soon. God bless. Bye.